Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're doing something a bit different. We're really zeroing in on one specific career, one person's story.
That's right.
And the goal isn't just to talk about success, but to actually try and dissect the blueprint behind it, how it was built.
Exactly. And it's a blueprint built, interestingly, not on, say, incredible early talent or luck, but almost entirely on sheer force of will, consciously constructed will.
The subject is NBA star Jimmy Butler. But we're not starting with the highlight reels, are we?
No, not at all. To really get this, you have to start way, way back, before the fame, before the NBA. It begins with a moment of just stark reality. Almost unbelievable, really.
Set the scene for us. Where does this resilience story truly begin?
Okay, so picture this. Jimmy Butler is 13 years old. He's in Tomball, Texas. And his own mother, she looks at him and says, and this is the line, "I don't like the look of you, you gotta go."
Wow, 13, just you gotta go.
Yeah, no explanation given, nothing, just out.
Okay.
Kicked out of his own home by his mother. That's hard to even process. 13 is so young, you're still fundamentally a child.
Absolutely. And that statement, that single moment of extreme abandonment, it's not just a bad day. It becomes the foundational trauma, the pressure point, you could say, for everything that follows. His entire identity gets shaped around navigating that rejection.
So the immediate takeaway here, for anyone listening, is that sometimes the fuel for incredible drive, for greatness even, it comes from places we wouldn't expect, from overcoming something incredibly difficult right at the core.
Precisely. Because think about it, at 13, what you need is stability, right? Security, a safe place. He got the exact opposite. Instant, catastrophic rejection from the one person you're supposed to be able to count on unconditionally.
It makes you wonder, how does someone even maintain ambition, let alone basic function, when survival itself becomes the only goal?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How does a kid go from needing that parental support to suddenly, literally, just trying to find a place to sleep that night? The idea of dreaming about the NBA seems, well, frankly, absurd in that context. It points to something deep inside him, though, some kind of inherent refusal to just give up.
I think so. It suggests that the pain wasn't just something he endured. It had to be, like, metabolized, turned into something else. That profound insecurity, that fear, it's somehow got converted into this relentless work ethic, this absolute self-reliance. Because who else could he rely on?
Okay, let's unpack this then.
Yeah.
Let's really dig into how a kid carrying his life in a duffel bag, how that somehow became the foundation for an entire NBA career.
Right. So to really grasp the scale of this, we need to sit with the details of that moment. It wasn't like a gradual breakdown of the relationship.
Well, it sounds incredibly abrupt.
Totally abrupt. Final. 1 minute, he's presumably living at home. The next, he's facing homelessness. At 13, complete vacuum, psychologically, logistically.
And the setting matters too, right? You mentioned Tomball, Texas.
Yeah, and the sources point out Tomball isn't Houston. It's a smaller working-class town outside the city.
Which probably means fewer resources, maybe less anonymity, harder to just disappear or find help.
Exactly. It likely compounds the difficulty, maybe even the shame, of being a teenager suddenly without a home base. It's a nightmare scenario.
And this is where the duffel bag comes in. It becomes the symbol.
It really does. It encapsulates that instability. The reports talk about him bouncing around, couch to couch, staying with one friend for a few days, maybe a week if he was lucky, then moving on.
So his entire physical world, everything he owned,
fits in that one bag. Think about the mental weight of that. It's not just carrying clothes. It's carrying your entire fragile existence.
Yeah, like you can't ever fully unpack. You always have to be ready to pack up and leave at a moment's notice. That constant state of impermanence.
Yeah.
It must be exhausting.
Incredibly draining. And what's really fascinating and kind of crucial to the resilience blueprint is how he managed to maintain some semblance of normalcy through this.
You mean like school and basketball?
Exactly. Think about it. No fixed address, future totally uncertain hour by hour. How do you consistently show up for school? How do you make it to basketball practice on time, focused?
Most kids in that situation,
Yeah.
you'd expect things to fall apart completely. Grades drop, they disengage.
Right. Many would just crash. But the sources are clear. Jimmy Butler kept up with both school and basketball. And this is key for listeners trying to understand his drive.
Okay, so what does that tell us?
It tells us he wasn't even chasing NBA dreams at that point. That wasn't the goal. He was just trying to survive day to day.
But the discipline required just to maintain those two things, school, basketball, while his personal life was pure chaos.
That shows something innate, a refusal, a defiance almost. He was rejecting the hand he was dealt, refusing to let the chaos define him. It's like a pre-professional version of refuse to quit.
So even in survival mode, he was laying groundwork.
Absolutely. It speaks to this idea of maybe radical presence. In survival, you can't afford to worry about next week, let alone next year. You focus on the next hour, the next meal, the next interaction that keeps a roof over your head.
And maybe that translated into focus elsewhere.
It seems like it must have. An extreme capacity for focus. When he was in class, he had to be fully in class, on the court, fully on the court. He couldn't afford the mental luxury of drifting off, maybe, that other kids had.
Because he knew, maybe implicitly, that school and basketball were his only lifelines, his only way out.
That's how it looks. His only leverage against his circumstances. So he took all that negative energy, the fear, the loneliness, the instability, and he didn't just suppress it, he actively converted it.
Into fuel.
Into fuel, exactly. It wasn't just about managing pain, it was a strategic deployment of pain into productive action. That fear literally drove his effort.
And the self-advocacy?
Yeah.
Recognizing even subconsciously that letting the chaos win meant losing everything.
Yes. His commitment to structure, even when his environment offered absolutely none, was already showing a kind of professional mindset. He was building his own internal structure.
Okay, so he's in this incredibly precarious situation, bouncing around, holding on to school and basketball for dear life. How does he get from that point to something resembling stability?
Well, this is where the story takes a crucial turn. Section 2 is really about moving from that total instability towards a foundation.
And it happens through basketball.
Indirectly, yes. The connection came through a friendship he struck up with a guy named Jordan Leslie. They met playing basketball on the high school circuit.
Okay. And Jordan Leslie's family becomes important.
Hugely important. Jordan's mother, Michelle Lambert, she started noticing Jimmy. She saw him hanging around, always polite, quiet, but something wasn't right. She recognized the signs.
The signs of homelessness.
Yeah, the sources suggest she pieced it together. She saw a kid who was clearly struggling, who didn't seem to have a stable place to go.
And she decided to step in.
She did, and her decision wasn't just kind, it was, frankly, extraordinary when you look at the circumstances.
What were the circumstances?
Well, Michelle Lambert already had a full house. A very full house. The sources say she had 7 other children living in a small home.
7 kids already.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, logistically, financially, emotionally, taking in another teenager, especially one who'd been through what Jimmy had, who might bring his own set of challenges, that was a massive undertaking, a huge risk, really.
And there's a cultural context here, too, isn't there, in Tomball, Texas?
Right. The source material make a point of mentioning this. The Lamberts are a white family living in what's described as a deeply conservative Texas town, and they decided to open their door to this young black teenager.
So she crossed quite a few lines. Social, logistical.
Absolutely. But the sources are really clear about her motivation. They quote someone saying, it wasn't about race, wasn't about charity.
What was it about?
It was about, quote, love, rules, and second chances. That specific combination.
Love, rules, and second chances. That's powerful.
Isn't it? Because it provided exactly what he was missing. Love gave him that emotional security he'd been starved of. And the rules.
Yeah.
The rules provided the structure, the consistency he desperately needed.
What were the rules? Was
Wow.
it complicated?
Actually, no. That's the beauty of it. Michelle's condition for letting him stay was incredibly simple, but profoundly effective, basically. You can stay here, but you have to follow the rules, you have to go to school, and you have to do your chores.
Simple, clear expectations.
Exactly. Think about what that meant for a kid who'd been living out of a bag where every day was unpredictable. Suddenly, he has assigned tasks, taking out the trash, doing dishes, whatever it was.
That consistency. It's like an anchor.
It was the anchor that replaced the chaos. He went from negotiating for shelter daily to living in a place with clear, simple, reliable expectations.
And how did he respond to that structure? Did he push back?
Quite the opposite, it seems. His commitment to following those simple domestic rules was immediate and total. It was proof of his inherent discipline.
So he wasn't looking for a handout. He was looking for a framework.
Precisely. He wasn't some rebellious kid needing to be tamed. He was a disciplined person, desperate for direction and a safe place to channel his energy. This is really where that relentless worker persona we see later finds its roots. The drive he developed surviving the chaos now had productive lanes to run in.
Did he consider them family?
He did. He apparently didn't call it a formal adoption, but he absolutely called them family. He's credited them publicly with saving his life.
So it wasn't just shelter. It was a system.
A system of accountability. And that concept, learned doing chores in Tomball, you can draw a direct line from that to the kind of accountability he later demanded from millionaire teammates in the NBA. It started there.
Okay, so he finds this stability, this structure with the Lamberts. He's still playing basketball, still going to school. Now we start moving towards the athletic career path, right?
We do. But it's crucial to understand that his path remains completely different from the norm. It's still the story of grit, overcoming, well, being overlooked. Butler's journey is really the antithesis of the typical basketball prodigy narrative.
How so? What do you mean by typical?
Well, think about most top NBA players today. Guys like LeBron James, Zion Williamson. They were identified as potential stars super early, right? Middle school, maybe even earlier. Scouts tracked them, websites ranked them. They got showered with scholarship offers from big-name universities before they even finished high school.
Right. The hype machine starts young.
Exactly. Jimmy Butler, after high school, zero. Absolutely zero scholarship offers from Division high school.
Zero. That's surprising for someone who ends up an NBA All-Star.
It's incredibly surprising. He was completely overlooked, undervalued, essentially dismissed by the entire system that's supposed to identify top talent.
So for our blueprint here, this is a really critical point.
It absolutely is. It demonstrates that when the system fails to recognize potential, or maybe when the talent isn't immediately obvious in the conventional way, relentless work ethic becomes the only differentiator. He couldn't rely on reputation or hype.
He had to earn everything, right? Develop a different mindset.
He was forced to. A mindset based on proving people wrong, on earning respect piece by piece, because nobody was just handing it to him.
So no Division I offers.
Yeah.
What happens after high school then?
He's forced onto what people sometimes call the hard way, the junior college route. He ends up enrolling at Tyler Junior College.
Okay, explain what junior college or JUCO basketball means for someone listening.
Right. So JUCO programs are kind of the proving ground for overlooked or academically ineligible players. They generally have very limited resources, fierce internal competition for playing time, and really high stakes. You're basically fighting for your athletic life every single day.
Trying to put up numbers good enough to get noticed by a four-year university.
Exactly. You have to be so dominant, so consistent, that a Division I school finally decides to take a chance on you, usually for just your junior and senior years.
And it's not exactly glamorous, right? No ESPN cameras at JUCO games.
Not at all. It's far from the spotlight. You have to be truly exceptional just to get seen, let alone recruited out of there. And the sources confirm that's what Butler did. He had to, quote, outwork everyone at Tyler, just grind relentlessly.
And it worked. He got noticed.
Eventually, yes. He put up the numbers, showed the work ethic, and managed to earn a late scholarship offer from Marquette University, a Division I program.
So he makes it to DI. What was his reputation like at Marquette? Was he suddenly a star?
Not really a star in the traditional sense, no. His reputation, again, wasn't built on flashy offense or scoring 30 points a game. He became known primarily as a relentless defender and team-first guy.
That phrase again, relentless defender.
Yeah, and in his case, it wasn't just coach speak. It meant he embraced the hardest, grittiest parts of the game, locking down the opponent's best player, diving for loose balls, taking charges, all the effort plays.
Which connects back to his background, perhaps, that survival instinct.
You have to think so. That mentality of fighting for every scrap, of valuing every possession, knowing that nothing is guaranteed. It seems rooted in having survived being kicked out, having lived on the edge. He couldn't afford mental lapses.
He knew what it felt like to lose everything.
Exactly. He knew where the metaphorical bus stops were because he'd already been thrown off one. That kind of experience shapes your approach to competition, to effort.
Okay, so he does well at Marquette, known for defense and toughness. Surely by then, the NBA scouts are seeing star potential.
Still skepticism. Even after proving himself at a solid program like Marquette, he wasn't viewed as a surefire lottery pick or a future franchise player. He was seen as a solid role player, maybe, a good defender, tough kid, but limited offensively, not a star.
So going into the NBA draft,
He wasn't guaranteed anything high. And the draft results basically confirmed that view. In the 2011 NBA draft, the Chicago Bulls selected him.
where did he go?
30th overall, pick number 30.
That's the very last pick of the first round.
The very last one. So, while getting drafted in the first round is obviously a huge achievement, being picked last sends a message. It was one final confirmation from the league. We see you as an afterthought, a project. Maybe you'll stick around, maybe not.
Almost like one last piece of external doubt for him to absorb.
You could say that. One last bit of fuel for the fire that was already burning inside him.
So he makes it to the NBA, last pick of the first round. What happens next? Does he immediately prove everyone wrong?
Not immediately, no. His professional career started pretty much exactly how his childhood did. Right at the bottom.
Really? Even after being a first-round pick?
Yeah. He signed his contract with the Bulls, but initially he barely saw the court. He was deep on the bench, no endorsements, no media hype, nothing like that. Just trying to earn minutes under coach Tom Thibodeau.
And Thibodeau is known for being demanding, right?
Yeah.
Especially defensively.
Extremely demanding. Which, in hindsight, might have been the perfect coach for Butler. But yeah, he had to earn every single minute. He wasn't handed anything.
So here's where it gets really interesting, maybe. Because a lot of guys get drafted, sign the contract, and maybe they relax a bit. I made it.
Right. But for Butler, given everything he'd been through, that insecurity, that drive, it seems like getting drafted wasn't the finish line. It was the starting gun for the real work.
The work started after he got the contract.
That's what the sources strongly suggest. His improvement, his rise in the league, wasn't because he suddenly grew 3 inches or developed a magical skill overnight. It was powered almost entirely by that sheer force of will we keep coming back to.
What did that look like in practice?
It looked like obsessive dedication, especially in the off-season. While other guys might be vacationing, he was in the gym, relentlessly working on his weaknesses, expanding his offensive game basically from the ground up, his ball handling, his shooting, refining his body. He was literally building himself into an all-star, piece by piece.
In the dark, so to speak.
Right.
When no one was really watching or expecting it.
Exactly. Built in the dark is a great way to put it. And you can trace that progression step by step. It's quite remarkable.
Take us through it.
Okay, so barely played as a rookie, earned minutes, then a starting spot, primarily through his defense and hustle, gradually developed a reliable jump shot, then ways to create his own offense, became an all-star, then a multi-time all-star, secured a maximum-level contract, becoming a franchise cornerstone, and ultimately became this undisputed leader, even forcing trades sometimes to land in situations that matched his intensity and championship aspirations.
That intensity. It wasn't just about his own work ethic, was it? He expected it from others, too.
Absolutely. And that's a crucial part of his story, and maybe the blueprint. He didn't just transform his own game, he tried to transform the environment around him. And that often led to, well, friction.
You mean with teammates?
Yeah. The sources definitely highlight his time in Chicago, then Minnesota, then Philadelphia. That intensity, which was born from his own survival story. His absolute refusal to accept anything less than 100% effort. It often clashed with teammates who maybe didn't share that same foundational life-or-death drive.
That's a really important nuance, isn't it?
Yeah.
That same drive that makes him great can also cause problems.
It's a paradox. The trauma created the unbelievable work ethic and resilience. But that same...
Which eventually led him to Miami, right? That seemed like a turning point, culturally.
It really did. The Miami Heat organization is famous for its own demanding, accountability-based culture. Heat culture, they call it. It was almost like finding a professional version of Michel Lambert's household rules.
And it worked there.
It absolutely worked. He led that team, often seen as an underdog collection of gritty players, to 2 NBA Finals appearances. That really cemented his image across the league. The ultimate symbol of toughness, leadership, and performing under pressure, being clutch.
Proving that mentality could overcome maybe pure talent advantages on other teams.
Exactly. He showed that mental fortitude, applied relentlessly, could bridge talent gaps. And this is where that painful origin story becomes his most potent weapon. The doubt, the rejection, the struggle. It wasn't baggage anymore.
It was fuel.
It was pure fuel. And the sources point out the most important choice he made wasn't just to work hard, but to actively never make excuses for himself. Ever.
There's that quote that sums it up, isn't there?
Yes, the key quote. People say I can't do this or that. I love it. It drives me. It pushes me.
That's not just defiance. It's like actively welcoming the negativity.
It's like psychological alchemy. He didn't ignore the doubt or the criticism. He took it in, treated it like raw material, and converted that negative energy into positive output, into fanatical, sustained effort.
He built his own internal engine.
An internal furnace, always burning. He doesn't need external praise or motivation because he carries the memory of what it feels like to have nothing, to be unstable. He can't allow himself to settle or believe the limits others set because he already overcame the ultimate limit, being completely abandoned.
So we followed this incredible journey. From that devastating rejection in Tomball, finding structure with the Lamberts, grinding through junior college obscurity, being overlooked in the draft, and then meticulously building himself into an NBA superstar. What does it all add up to? What's the blueprint?
I think the blueprint is this. Jimmy Butler is more than just a great basketball player. He's a case study, maybe the case study, in manufactured resilience.
Manufactured, meaning consciously built.
Consciously built, yes. Let's just quickly recap the obstacles again. Picked out by his mother at 13. Homeless. Taken in by strangers, the Lamberts, out of kindness. Completely ignored by major college basketball programs. Undervalued by NBA scouts, drafted last in the first round. He started with deficits in almost every single category you could measure.
So the core message, the synthesis, is that greatness isn't always innate. It's not always born.
Often it's built meticulously, definitively. And as the sources really emphasize, that building happens piece by piece, in the dark, when no one is watching.
All those hours in the gym we talked about?
Every single one, every extra workout, every defensive slide drill when teammates were done for the day, every shot put up after practice. Those were the bricks. Those were the physical manifestations of the commitment, the structure he learned doing chores for Michelle Lambert, applied to his craft.
It's definitive proof, then, that he refused to let his starting point dictate his ending point.
Absolutely. That refusal, the refusal to be broken by the initial trauma, the conscious choice to embrace structure over chaos, the decision to outwork doubt, it's directly linked to his success. It wasn't luck. It was a determined, sustained rejection of the failure that, frankly, society probably expected for him.
Okay, so let's bring this home for the listener. What's the ultimate insight here for you listening to this, if you're not trying to make the NBA?
The insight is universal, I think. It doesn't matter what your personal tomball was or what obstacles you're facing right now, maybe a career change, starting a business, learning a difficult skill, whatever it is. No matter where your story begins, you hold the power to write your own ending.
Your background doesn't have to define your future architecture.
Exactly. What Butler modeled is that stability, real depth stability, isn't just about external circumstances or material comfort. It can be found internally through a non-negotiable commitment to your own rules, your own structure, and holding yourself accountable to a process.
You learned that structure from the Lamberts.
And then he applied that same fierce accountability to his own development every single day. He essentially became the architect of his own internal and external environment. He refused to be a victim of circumstance. He chose to master it. Hashtag tag outro.
Well, that really brings us full circle on this deep dive into Jimmy Butler. We've traced it all. The shock of the abandonment at 13, the lifeline of structure and love from the Lamberts, the necessary, unglamorous grind through junior college.
The hard way.
And then that relentless climb in the NBA, built entirely on pure, unadulterated will.
It's quite a narrative arc. He basically took the worst possible starting hand and redefined it, reframed it as the necessary ingredient for his eventual strength.
So thinking about the listener again.
Yeah.
What does this all mean for you right now in your life? I think it means recognizing that the very things that feel like weaknesses, maybe past traumas, maybe just feeling constantly overlooked or underestimated, the chips on your shoulder, those can actually become your deepest source of strength, your most potent fuel. It's about deciding not just to survive the hard stuff, but to actively harness it, to treat it like raw material for whatever you're trying to build.
And that leads perfectly into our final provocative thought for you to take away. Building on that idea of Butler's intensity, maybe even that friction it sometimes caused.
Yeah.
If Jimmy Butler's absolute defining characteristic was his refusal to make excuses for himself and his intolerance for excuses in others, think about this. What area of your own life are you currently allowing circumstances, whether they're external obstacles or internal doubts, to define your limits? Where are you making excuses, even small ones, instead of defining those circumstances through your own relentless, uncompromising effort?
That's a tough question.
It is, but it gets to the heart of it. How much of your own future success, the success that only you can build through sheer focus and accountability, how much of that is currently being built in the dark right now when nobody else is watching?